All right, hi and welcome back everybody. Ryan here again today. Got a lot of questions and comments on the channel about buying a first truck, kind of what to look for or what I would buy or ask my opinion. So we did a video a while back where we kind of went through my truck, this Kenworth T660, kind of did like a truck inspection, if you were going to go look at a truck, kind of the things to look for. So if you're kind of looking for that information, you can check out that video and we can put that in the description down there, the link for that. So if you're interested in kind of more like hands-on inspection type of stuff. So this video is kind of going to be about kind of specking out a truck. I mean, what I would look at as far as a 20-year mechanic, heavy equipment truck technician, and also an owner-operator for 5 years. And like I said, as an owner-operator, I've been everywhere, guys. I've been all 48 states, been across all the major passes, up Squantonomy, Cabbage Hill up in Oregon, Wyoming, Montana, 4th of July Pass, all that good stuff. Been across Trans-Canada Highway up in Canada, almost up, Revelstoke, and all the way across, all the way back down into Minnesota. So I've been around as far as driving conditions, snowstorms, rain, heat, all that good stuff. So, or bad stuff, however you want to put it. So first of all, I'm going to kind of talk about the kind of specking out. There's like 6x4, 6x2, and I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of what that means. If you're seeing something that says the 6x2 or if it's a 6x4, and I'll give you my opinion on that after I kind of explain what it is. So I got my truck out here, which is for sale. I'm not trying to sell my truck on YouTube, but if you're looking for a truck, check out Truck Paper. It's on there. So as of right now, as of today, what is today, the 25th or something of September 2021, still for sale. So this truck is a 6x4, and what they mean by that is you have six wheels and you have 4 that drive. A 6x2, typically a 6x2, this axle is going to be a drive axle, and this axle back here is just going to be like a trailer axle for the most part. You'll see like a hub, just like you would on a trailer, because this is basically a floating axle. I mean, there's no differential pumpkin or anything like that back here. So the advantage to that of having a 6x2 where you have one drive axle comes down to basically fuel economy. Now the disadvantages to that are traction, and spinning out and all that type of stuff. And the problem is that when you have a load on this, you have a trailer on, you have a load on, you're dividing that weight, because this fifth wheel is my truck has a fixed fifth wheel, and I'll talk about that in a second as well. So pretty much when you have a trailer on here and it's loaded down, the weight's going to be distributed between both axles. So if you've only got, say you've got 30,000 pounds on this up here on your drives, you're going to have 15,000, 15,000. So now I've got 15,000, 15,000, and I got both axles are drive axles, so they both can turn. Now if you've got a trailer on, if you've got a 6x2 where this is a dead axle where it doesn't drive, I've only got 15,000 pounds on that drive axle, so you don't have any traction on this back axle, and it actually takes the weight off of this axle, so you put yourself at quite a disadvantage, especially if you're into snow, rain, hill climbing, off-road, gravel type of scenario. So I had a guy here that has a 6x2 the other day, and he was out here at the driveway, and he almost couldn't get out of the driveway because the way that he got set up, when he was trying to back out, his wheels were spinning because that back axle actually subtracts from, it takes away from your drive axle, because you got, pounds per square inch on this back axle out back here that you can't take advantage of that traction. So. Okay, and since we're on the topic of 6x2 and 6x4, I had a viewer, subscriber, I hope, that was been asking us, he was looking at a 6x2 and a 6x4, and then he said the 6x2 has super singles on it. And in my opinion, a 6x2 with super singles is like a prescription for a major problem. Because super singles, for one, they're made for economy. And if you don't know what a super single is, that's where you just have one big tire instead of 2. So with a set of duals like this, regular tires, these low profile 22.5s, With this gap in here, you get better traction with a narrower tire, you know, in snow and mud or gravel or wherever. Now, if you had a 6x2 with super singles on it, I'm not a super single guy anyways. I don't like super singles. And the reason why is that if I got a super single on here, I blow a tire, I'm done. I'm on the side of the road. You're done. You're not going anywhere. That axle's going to drop, and you're going to be on your rim. You're not going anywhere. If I blow this tire on this truck right now, this tire will still carry that weight. I can still drive. I've actually pulled trailers 100 miles with a blown tire on them that have regular duals like this. So you can actually get to the next place where you can pull in and get it fixed, or pull in and do your 10-hour break while you're getting the tire fixed and stuff like that. So I don't like super singles. I wouldn't buy them. I wouldn't put them on a truck or on a trailer, just for the simple fact that when you blow that tire, you're done. But and like I said, they're like big skis. I mean, so if you're an I-10 guy or an I-20 guy and you don't go any farther north than that, you know, down in the hot weather, warm weather where it don't snow, or you know, even in the rain, I mean, it's just like you're driving around on big skis. You know, the wider tire you have, I mean, the less you're going to slide, especially on snow and stuff like that. So I don't recommend super singles, and especially in a 6x2 configuration. I wouldn't do it. I would stay away from it. Or if you did buy the truck, I mean, ask the dealer, whoever you're working with, if they could swap those out for a set of duals or something like this truck has. I gotta be here. So while we're back here, I was going to talk about your gear ratios or differential ratios. This truck has 342 rear ends, and they're a good rear end. I mean, because that kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You kind of get the fuel mileage and still a good, you know, pulling power basically for climbing hills. Because when you get up to you get down to like the 270s or the 305s or something like that, yeah, you're gonna get a lot better mileage. But when you're pulling grades and stuff, I mean, that's so high geared that you're gonna be down to like 25 mile an hour. So like a 336 or a 342, I think is a really good kind of a compromise, to where you can still get pretty good fuel economy, and you can still climb pretty well if you're climbing mountains and stuff like that, or pulling heavy loads. So I think that's kind of the best of both worlds. Now while we're back here, fifth wheel. This truck has a fixed fifth wheel, and I just put a new fifth wheel on this truck. It's got like 1,000 miles on it, new top plate anyways. So, and what I mean by fixed, it's bolted. It's not going to move. So I would recommend getting a slidable fifth wheel, a slider, because I know when I was at Landstar, they have a lot of FedEx freight and sometimes UPS stuff, and you're going to pull doubles. Now, I worked at YRC as a company driver, a road driver, you know, where I was out on the road as a LTL driver, pulling from city to city. And if you guys ever worked in that line of work, you know, with a tandem truck, when you're pulling the 29.5 foot trailers, the little pup trailers, you got to slide that fifth wheel all the way back to the back, because you'll tear off your mud flaps with the jacks on the trailer or the landing gear. So I would recommend getting a sliding fifth wheel if possible. So I was basically cut out of that work with Landstar, those FedEx loads and all that, with those doubles and triples, which is not triples, but doubles. Very lucrative work out there in that type of business, where it's like they basically pay you for a week and you're just doing runs, and you can be home every night sometimes. And sometimes they might pay like $6 grand a week to do those runs. And like I said, since I didn't have a sliding fifth wheel, I couldn't do those loads. So I would recommend getting a sliding fifth wheel if possible. Kind of moving on. This truck has an APU. It's had an APU on it since it was born, down in Chillicothe, Ohio. The one thing, when you see a truck with an APU that's been on it since it was new, that truck's going to have it's not going to have any idle time on it for the most part, hopefully. And that cuts down on your overall hours. So a lot of guys look at mileage. I don't look at mileage as much as a mechanic, as an engine mechanic. I look at hours, engine hours. This truck's got 760,000 miles on it, but it's only got 16,000 hours on it. So typically between 20,000, 25,000 hours, that's when you're going to be due for an M-frame rebuild. So I've seen trucks out there that only got 450,000 miles on them, but they don't have an APU on them. They've got 20, 25, 22,000 hours on them, because they've ran their entire life. They don't get shut off because the guy drives all day, he parks for his 12 hour break, whatever he's doing, and the truck runs the whole time, you know. So, and that idle time, in my opinion, is actually worse. I mean, especially on the, it depends on the operator who's driving it. When you're, these emissions engines, when you're just idling them at 600-700 RPM, it's just not very good for the engine. And you don't know what the last driver, I mean, how many drivers have been in a truck. If you're buying an old company truck or whatever, you don't know what their routine's been. I mean, if you kick them up to like 1,000 RPM when they're idling, it's not as bad because they actually get a chance to warm up and run everything through better. But if you find something that has an APU on it and it's been on it, and like I said, this truck's got 760,000, but it's only got like 16,500 hours on it. So it's really low hours for a 2013. Another thing on my truck here, you notice there is some rust on the frame. I mean, the paint's kind of flaked off. It's not real, it hasn't really gotten to the metal. It's basically just the paint flaking off, which isn't the end of the world. So this truck's ran in salt. It's been up north, all that good stuff. But the only problem with, like, when you see a lot of rust is you might have some wiring problem, because as you guys know, salt and brine water and all that, and other kind of high pH, you know, liquids and whatever they put on the roads to melt the snow, beet juice and all that stuff, or it could be acidic as well. Copper and that type of stuff don't mix, so it can get into your wiring connections, and then you're looking at replacing sensor problems, wiring, and all that type of stuff, where it turns your wiring green. And as you know, copper is a conductor, so when it's kind of deteriorating, it doesn't send signals right. Don't do what it's supposed to do. So I mean, I've replaced a lot of wiring harness on this. I mean, I just put a trailer pigtail back here. I mean, not this actual pigtail, but the actual plug and that goes into the chassis harness. Replace that. So that's something else to look for. If you see a lot of rust, and kind of look at the wiring and see what you got, because if I had to put a whole chassis harness in this truck, I mean, I think just through Kenworth, I mean, I'm looking at like $6,000-7,000 just for the wiring harness, and that was the last time I asked about it, which this one's been okay. I just kind of replaced a lot of the components. I put an engine harness on the Cummins engine, which kind of brings us to our next point. So kind of moving along, guys, and I like Kenworth trucks. I'm pretty, you know, that's just the way I am. So one of the reasons I like Kenworths, this is all aluminum. This truck's all aluminum. So if you look underneath this cab, there's no rust in it. It's all aluminum. So for one, it doesn't rust. Two, it's a lot lighter than steel, like a lot of your other trucks are, like your Western Stars, Freightliner, and all that stuff. This truck, this cab, this body on here is all aluminum, so it's a lot lighter, and it doesn't rust out, and it stays pretty nice for the most part. You do, like when you put a steel bolt into it on aluminum, you get some corrosion issues and stuff like that, but it isn't the end of the world. So kind of moving on to the engine here, which I said, I just put a new complete engine harness on this. This is a Cummins ISX15. It is a CM2250, which they had some trouble with. And with that CM2250 or 2350, CM871, all that good stuff, what they refer to on that is the fuel system, which this truck here, it has been updated, because with the 2250s, which the high pressure fuel pumps right down here, right by the air compressor, the original CM2250s, the plungers were made out of ceramic, and they came apart, and they went through the engine and caused a lot of trouble. And this truck actually was upgraded to the CM2350 fuel system, so and Cummins did that under warranty. I am very partial to Cummins. I'm not saying they're the greatest engine in the world, but what you get with Cummins, and I'm going to do another, I got another topic that I'm not going to put out right yet, but I'm going to do a video on it, which I just discovered a couple days ago, which is very, very, you know, is hugely invaluable. With Cummins, okay, Kenworth sells Cummins, Peterbilt sells Cummins, Freightliner sells Cummins, International sells Cummins, Volvo sells Cummins, and on and on and on. Then you actually have Cummins dealers. So if you need a part or you need service, you're not tied, like if you had a paccar in this, you're pretty well tied, you know, a paccar MX-13 or something, you're going to a Kenworth dealer or you're going to a Peterbilt dealer, and that's it. I mean, there's a lot of smaller shops. with the Davy software, it's so proprietary. I mean, nobody. I mean, OTR with their with the tool that we reviewed a while back. You can check out that video as well. OTR's tool will kind of communicate with the packars, with the MX-13s, and it can actually get rid of that 5 mile-an-hour D rate and stuff like that. But packars are very proprietary. Volvo's almost as bad, I guess. But if you got a Cummins, like I said, again, I'm not saying they're the greatest engine in the world, but as far as parts and service goes, I mean, like I said, if you got a freightliner with a Cummins in it, you could pull into a Kenworth dealer, you could pull into a Volvo dealer, you could pull into mom and pop down here that have Cummins Insight or Jaw Test or Texta or whatever, like I have, and you can get that truck hooked up and worked on. And like I said, in my area up here in Northeast Ohio, I've got 3 or 4 Kenworth dealers. I got Peterbilt dealers. So if I call somebody, they don't have a part for Cummins, I just go down the list of like, I've got like 25, 30 dealers I can call, and chances are I can come up with a part the same day, you know. Whereas if you got a paccar, I've got a handful of places I can call. If you got a Volvo, I've got like 2 Volvo dealers I can call. So when you have a Cummins, even like I said, they might not be the greatest, you know, there's people might not like them or whatever, but in the times we live in, there's so many more places you can go for service and so many more places you can go for parts. And as far as the do-it-yourselfers like myself, I've got a huge resource I'm getting ready to put out that I just found the other day, like just by chance, that Cummins actually puts out there for free, all the tech manuals, parts data and all that, and I'm going to do a separate video on that to show you guys with that, because it's like basically for us, this is priceless. I mean, if you go to Caterpillar and try to buy some manuals for some of their engines, they can be $2,000–$3,000 just for a manual. So, and that Cummins is giving us information out for free for parts and service, you know, line by line service data, torque specs, and all this other stuff. That's just crazy. And like I said, I actually was in a forum looking for some information, and I found this link. And like I said, we'll talk about that in probably our next video. So you can, if you guys are interested in that, check that out as well. So that pretty well covers engine, and that's one of the biggest things is your engine, your powertrain. And kind of moving on from the engine, I want to talk about transmissions. This truck here has a FRO 16210C, I believe, Eaton Fuller 10-speed transmission, internal cooler, and they're not a bad transmission. I mean, I just put a new transmission in this. If you guys watch me, I did it myself here in the driveway, basically. 10 speed's easy to drive. They're cheap to replace. I mean, the transmission, I got a rebuilt one down at Edelman's here in Canton, Ohio. It was like $2,600 for a rebuilt one. Do a new clutch in it for $775. Did all the work myself. Ready to roll. Brand new transmission. It had 760,000 miles on it before it. The reverser synchronizers were going out of it, or not the high-low range synchronizers were going out of it. So like when I was trying to go from 5th to 6th, sometimes it would leave me in neutral or it would grind really bad, and going down gears it would grind and stuff bad too. So we replaced it, done deal, ready to roll. Me personally, I like a 13-speed or an 18-speed. An 18-speed and a 13-speed are basically the same thing. The only difference is that on 18-speed you can split the lower gears versus with the 13-speed you can just split the higher gears. So if you're doing dry van or kind of nothing really heavy haul like with flatbed and whatnot, a 13-speed's great. And the reason I like a 13 is there's a lot of versatility in there. You can split those top end gears if you're pulling out west in the mountains, Wyoming, Montana, Washington, whatnot. So and not only that, you get a lot better fuel economy. I mean, with this truck here, I mean, averaging about 6 with a 10-speed. If I had a 13-speed in this, and with my driving habits of driving 80 mile/hour everywhere I go, with the 13, I could probably still be pushing 7 mpg versus 6 with this 10-speed. So, and then I could pull the hills a little bit better too. So if I wanted. Another thing inside the truck, which I'll talk about, and first before I get in the truck here, as far as transmissions go, I know they've done the manual transmission restrictions for those of you that didn't take your driving test, your CDL test, road test, in a manual. They have the restriction for a manual transmission. So a lot of guys want automatics. Guys, okay, so there's been this depth level sensor shortage for Peterbilt and Kenworth and all that. And the problem is that, and it doesn't affect this truck's a 2013, which I'll expand on this in a minute. So this is one of the first first couple years of actually using the DPF and SCR and all that. So it's a lot older technology than what you see like with the 2015s and newer, where the newer sensors, and the problem with that depth level sensor shortage that you're hearing about, where guys are like 10 weeks out waiting for this sensor, is that they got a computer chip in them, and they are a smart device basically. And that's the way that that sensor, that depth level sensor, talks to the rest of the truck, the other modules, the other cans. It's not just simple voltage or resistance. It's all, you'd have to have like an oscilloscope to see those signals. It's more like ones and zeros type of thing, like a mini internet within the truck is how this stuff talks to itself. So there's no way. I hear all these guys saying, oh, can you just like hotwire it or whatever, and the way that these sensors talk to the main ECM or the smaller cans or modules, it's computer language. So, and it's like pulse width modulation, that type of thing, like you see on some of the cranes and stuff, other stuff I've worked with, to where it's not, you can't just hook a voltage meter or a test light up to this stuff and hack your way into it. It doesn't work that way. What this truck was a 2013, if the depth level sensor went bad in this, which they are available for this truck, I actually called Kenworth and they could have me one the next day. But even if this did go out on this truck, it's just a four-wire depth level sensor and depth temperature sensor in one unit. I could actually solder in a resistor into the wiring, and I could make it think that it was full all the time. So I actually could hotwire this truck. So that's not such a huge issue. But where I was kind of going with the transmissions before I got sidetracked there. Okay, so you get the automatic transmission, which is basically a manual transmission that has a clutch just like this manual transmission does, but there is a solenoid basically that actuates that clutch via computer, sensors and everything else. So when you put all this extra crap in here, automatic transmission, you got your wingman and the blind spot sensor, you got the radar on the front, you know, all that stuff. You're just adding and adding and adding more problems in my mind. So you're just adding another module for that. You're adding another module and wiring harness for that. And like I said, that transmission, it's a manual transmission. It just has a computer on it that controls it with solenoids that shift the gears for you. So I mean, there's just so many other things that can go wrong. So I like to keep it simple and move the gears myself. And that way I'm the computer. And you know, unless you're got some problem, then you know you're drunk or I don't know, whatever problem you might, whatever ailments you might have, it's going to work unless you tear the clutch out, ever tear the transmission out. You know, it's all mechanical. So yeah, I don't know, but I try to keep this truck here. Like I said, it's a 2013. It was built in late 2012. So it's at Kenworth, they say it's 2012, but title says 2013, whatever. When I hook up to this truck with my software, it's only got 4 modules. It comes up. You know, it's got an ABS module, engine module, after treatment module, and it's got a cab module, which all your lights and everything, turn signals and all that go through. And it takes like 10 seconds for it to load up. Now I work on some of these other trucks, newer Freightliners and newer T680 Kenworths and stuff. It takes like 10 minutes because they got like 20, 25 modules. I mean, you got cellular module, you got transmission module, and just climate control. It just goes on and on and on and on. And that's just all stuff to go wrong. So I mean, in the part shortage and all that, the less stuff, less sensors, the less wiring and all that stuff, less computer parts, less superconductors, semiconductors, I think you're better off. Less smart sensors and all that stuff. And that's kind of where that problem, like I said, if you've heard that, the depth level sensor shortages and all that, that's the problem with that stuff, is that there's no way to cheat your way through that type of thing. So. But and I'm going to go ahead and expand on that here real quick. As far as guys want to buy gliders or they want to buy pre-emissions trucks, I mean, guys, if you're looking at a pre-emissions truck, I mean, you're getting something that's like almost 15 years old now. So, I mean, unless it's been really kept in immaculate condition, I mean, most of these trucks are going to have well over 1 million miles on them. And they're starting, and you don't know, I mean, the regime, the government right now, it's obviously the EPA is cracking down. There's been mechanics, these guys doing delete kit on these engines and stuff like that. They're getting taken to court. They're getting threatened with jail. They're getting fined $250,000, $300,000 and stuff like that. So they're going to start checking these things. As I said a couple months ago, I mean, you got to have a 2010 or newer engine to go into California, and I see that expanding to some of these other states and possibly nationwide in the next couple of years, if not, you know, months. Maybe not months, but probably in the years, because they're trying to get these engines off the road. So it's just a matter of time before they start making these companies not give you replacement parts anymore, and then you're screwed. So, and I'm against. I've never, if you guys have watched my videos, and in my opinion, I've never been a big on doing deletes. I just think I want to be legal on the road, you know, running a business. I'm not like running around in some, you know, jacked up four-wheel drive. I do have a jacked up pickup truck around here somewhere, but I'm not one of these guys out like rolling coal and smoking everybody out like little Priuses and all that stuff. So I mean, and if you're gonna do that, then fine, delete your truck. But like if you're running a business where this is your livelihood and you got somebody that can pull you over and hook up to your computer and check it and put you out of business and ruin your life and take your house and everything else, you know, the way the government is, I just don't recommend doing a delete. So I mean, if you're looking at something that's legal and you're not gonna have as many problems, if you want to go to California and all that stuff, I mean, if you go into the earlier, like the 2011s, 12s, 13s, 14s year model trucks, this stuff isn't that advanced yet. I mean, it's all legal and it does what it's supposed to do, but the sensors and stuff aren't the same as the newer stuff, to where they're gonna make this stuff impossible, where you're not even gonna be able to delete it, because the computer's not gonna, the way that these sensors and modules and computers talk to each other, you're not gonna be able to emulate that to make this stuff, to delete these DPFs and SCRs and EGRs and all that. That's where it's going. They're gonna make it impossible for you to delete this stuff. A lot of guys, like I said, buying the glider kits, and glider kits have went out of sight. But like I said, my truck here, 2013, versus I was talking to a guy that just bought a glider. I mean, I can still get in, I just put a NOx sensor on this. I just put a DEF doser module, the DEF injector on it. I mean, all that stuff's available. I mean, it's not a problem. Like I said, even today, I've actually called about that. I was curious about the DEF level sensor on this, and then they have one available. But like I said, even if I couldn't get it, I could still put a resistor in there and fake it and do what it has to do. So anyways, I'll shut up about that. The other thing I want to talk about was gauges, like on your interior. My truck in here, it has a lot of gauges. And I like gauges because you can monitor everything going down the road. So I mean, on this truck you got oil temperature, engine oil temperature, fuel filter, so you can see your fuel filter restriction, boost, suspension load. This truck, my T680, it actually had axle temperatures up in here, and transmission temperature. This truck doesn't have it. So the more gauges you have, the better. That way you can kind of monitor what stuff's doing going down the road. So then you can, okay, I got this axle getting hot, so maybe I've got it's low on oil. Transmission's getting hot, maybe it's low in oil. I mean, if you're not checking it. Or you could have a bearing going out or something of that nature. So it's good to have those gauges where you can monitor stuff. So I always like a lot of gauges. But pretty much other than that, guys, I think that's about the most. I mean, I don't know if I'm leaving anything out here. But the other reason you know, guys, I'm pretty partial to Kenworth. And the other reason I like Kenworth, there's a lot of Kenworth. There's a lot of small, like mom and pop Kenworth dealers out there. A lot more. I mean, you see like most of the freightliners and Volvos, they're like bigger dealerships, and they're far and few in between. But like I said, with Kenworth, like I said, there's a lot of little mom and pop shops out there, or little dealers where they might have a 2-bay shop like out in Wyoming or something, and they're out there to where you can get parts and stuff like that. So it's just in this day and age, you've got to look at your parts network and your service network and all that. And like I said, with Cummins, I mean, you can go basically anywhere to get parts or service. And they're so easy to get into, as far as electronically, with the aftermarket service tools and stuff. So that's kind of my 2 cents, guys, and I'll kind of leave it at that, and you can kind of pick it apart. And that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much it. Okay, guys, so we're back outside the truck here, and the only other thing I wanted to mention, when you're looking at a used truck, I'm big on tires. I mean, when I'm out running the road, or I'm a 75, 80 mile an hour guy when I get out west. So tires are important to me, especially steer tires. I've always been a Bridgestone Michelin guy, and on the front end, I run 16 plies, and the reason I do that, and I'll show you guys here. This is a 16 ply tire, and you're running singles, so each tire is good for 7,160 pounds. So you're good for 14,320 pounds on your front axle. Yeah, I said 14,320, didn't I? Let me see. I'm not. My math is good. Yeah. Okay. So you're good for most of the time. I mean, on this truck running empty, I'm like at 11.6, 11.7. You know, even with no trailer on the back. I mean, because it's a heavy engine. It's a big engine. It's heavy. Now, if this was a 14 ply tire, you're good for like 12,300. I think they're good for like 6130 or something roughly, depending on the tire, per tire. So you're just a little over 12,000 pounds. So if you're pulling 80,000 pounds, you got 12,000 pounds on your axle, you're basically at like 98% of these tires' capacity all the time. So if you run a 16 ply, you're like running at like 80%. So it's not like you're maxing that tire out all the time. So when I'm looking at trucks, I always look at steers. A lot of them, they put these cheap, like double coin, these cheap Chinese tires, and they're real hard rubber. They put the 14 ply ones on that, on top of that. So look at the steers. I mean, if it's got a junk tire on it, 14 ply, you know, foreign junk tire, I mean, which Japanese tires, Korean tires are pretty good, but the ones from China, it's like it's a different kind of rubber. It's really hard. I mean, these are soft. So I mean, it can move around and do what it does, but I've noticed with those cheaper tires, the harder rubber, they actually start separating down here in the grooves. If you can see my hand down in between here, they'll actually, it's like they start pulling themselves apart. And if you're running, you know, 70 mile an hour plus, and one of those tires blows, you could roll your truck over. I mean, so I'm pretty big on tires when I go look at a used truck, and I know this is probably more of the inspection part of looking at a used truck. But look at those steer tires, and a lot of them, they put a pretty set of retreads or something on them. I don't like retreads. I like quality tires, because I think when you put these cheap tires on, you're just like tripping over 20s to save $1 or something. So I mean, with the life you get out of them and all that, and the safety factor, and then you risk blowing a tire, throwing a gator, and then you're late on a load, getting a pickup, and screws up your whole schedule and everything else. So if you're looking at something, I mean, especially the steers, I mean, try to buy something with decent tires on it. And yeah, they might throw a brand new tire on there, but it might be a piece of junk brand new tire, so check that out as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. And like I said, I just want to throw that in there because that's one of my like pet peeves as far as, you know, steer tires especially out there. So like I said, that's pretty much it. Like I said, we had a lot of questions about this topic, so I just wanted to throw this out there for you guys. Other than that, we appreciate all the views. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for the updates. Like the videos. You know, give us a thumbs up. And like I said, if you don't like the video, then hit the thumbs down twice, and that way we'll get the point or whatever. So just a funny way of putting that. So anyways, guys, thanks for all the support. And again, we'll see you next time. So.